welcome back to the Kick-Ass Relationship Show. I'm your host, Midori Verity, and today we are talking all about travel, vacation, exciting things, pushing ourselves outside of that comfort zone so that we can reconnect with more excitement and bring in some fresh ideas and fresh kind of that influx of energy into our relationships through travel, because I met this gal recently, Gabriella Ribeiro, and I met her at an event that I was at, and I was talking to her about travel, and she was so intriguing. And she told me about the type of vacations that she does, and it wasn't stuff that I was used to. And so anyway, we're going to learn more from her about how to plan these vacations that we haven't thought about, and how to push ourselves, again, outside of that comfort zone with the intention of infusing more passion and excitement into our relationships. So welcome to the show, Gabriella.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just have to brag on you a little. This gal does a little of everything, and I really don't know how she does it. I'm quite sure she doesn't sleep or she's cloned herself. But from what I can see, she has a number of businesses that keep her very busy, including True Marketing, which is all about, is a boutique sales and marketing firm, which, Gabriella, I do want to talk to you about that later. And she has Explorator Journeys, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then, of course, she runs a website for all of you moms who are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs. You got to check this out. I love it. I've joined, and I'm active in the group almost every day now. And It's called The Mogul Mom. It's for mompreneurs, but it's awesome for those of us who are so busy with our kids and figuring it out and just trying to do it all. It's for us. So it's awesome. But also, she's a single mom and she does it all. So really, we don't know what you do, but I think that there's something else involved here.
No secret sauce, I can assure you. It's, you know what it is? It's a lot of just, being very structured. It sounds strange because I'm always kind of running all over the place, but my biggest secret is always to get up really early. And to start my day very early. I kind of have to do that by default just because of how my business works, and the people I deal with. But what I also do a lot of, and it's just because my schedule allows for it now being a single mom, is I integrate a lot of self-care. And it doesn't sound like I would have the time to do that, but I actually really do, and I make it a priority. And I think that, and travel is a huge self-care, portal that I walk through all the time. I'm going to go away this weekend. I was away last weekend. As long as I can, whether with my child or not, I try to take every opportunity to disconnect and try to, get back to me or just reset my head. So that's a huge part of why I can try to stay balanced, I guess, at least 90% of the time.
Well, I think balance is a little overrated, but you said something that it was huge. You said that you go to disconnect, right? And so many of us get so busy, especially if we have kids, and then we're trying to work, or we're trying to run a business, or we're trying to volunteer, or we're trying to be perfect. It's so important to be able to disconnect, because then we're more efficient and effective. And I think that's probably what you're referring to. Yeah. Is that it's true. It makes such a difference. And also in your relationship, for those of us who are in a relationship or want to be in a relationship or will be in a relationship in the future, being aware of that. That's one thing with my husband and I. We have been together for 31 years and we have always traveled, but even small trips like an overnighter or a 3-dayer, that's what we've been able to do. That's what our time, we've owned a couple of different businesses. That's what our time allowed. And it's made a huge difference. So that's why I'm so intrigued with what you're talking about, Gabriella. So let's just jump in, because I want to know. I want to know more about the type of travel that you were talking about. You're like, Midori, I don't do regular travel.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
You have to be willing to delve into something new if you want to work with me on planning a trip, because there's too many people out there that do, kind of, the standards, and there's nothing wrong with a beach vacation. I'm just not the person to do it for you. I've been traveling kind of all my life and always been a little bit of an explorer. I grew up in parents and travel. And we were always kind of pushed, we did things on our own. We didn't do guided tours. We would get somewhere and land, and my dad would drive everywhere, and he always seemed to know which roads led to where without GPS. And, so, and I guess if he didn't, he just faked it really well and he figured it out. So that's kind of how I became, that kind of traveler. And what I find is being able to show, people who need something different, that you actually can change your life with a trip, has been kind of the biggest pleasure of my life. Because for me, it's always been, I always call it the other man in my life, or sometimes the man in my life. I've always run away or towards something, or, towards a destination when I haven't felt right, when I felt upset, challenged, sad, or even happy and wanted to celebrate. That's the first thing I default to, because without those types of new experiences, I think you're just, life just kind of passes. We have these bumps, right? And they go up and down, up and down. But when you integrate a life-changing trip, I mean, everything becomes different, because you bond differently. You have these great memories, you have these great photos, and it serves to just kind of bring everybody together who's in the mix, and also shake things up a little bit, so it's not just so routine every day. And marriage is hard work. A lot of it is routine, and relationships, so I think it's that way to sort of break out and keep things fresh, and give you guys something to talk about and something to look forward to the next time, in between the day to day.
Do you know how many couples I talk to who come to me because they are bored? They're bored, and then that causes the disconnect, and they get into this pattern. And so that's why I think it's so important what you do. And so to give us some ideas, give us some, so we can get a better picture of what we're talking about. Are we going to be jumping out of a plane? Are we going to the Swiss Alps and like finding our way down the hill? Tell us what we're talking about.
It could be a bunch of different things. Sometimes we get people that are, kind of like us, running businesses, running crazy, running scared sometimes, running all these kids and all of that stuff. And sometimes I'll just get a couple that says, we've never been away without our kids. We actually don't really know what we would do or talk about, which is scary. I get a lot of those calls. And, lots of times I will put them on a beautiful adventure to South Africa. Is always one of my touch points, because that place connects people like no other, but, I'll give you an example. I had a couple just like this, not too long ago, and they are, they went to South Africa. They did they made their own wine. They cooked together in a local's home. They made a meal together, which they never do at home. They went sandboarding. They kayaked with penguins off of Boulder's Beach. They did a safari. They did a bushwalk together where they were walking amongst lions. I mean, all of these things. And they had this beautiful suite that had this jacuzzi outside that was looking, onto, the savannah. And they connected back in such a way that they, not only connected back, but had these great stories to tell, and sort of rediscovered what was fun about one another. Because when your day-to-day goes on, and there's homework and there's bath time and there's all, the bills, and there's not a lot of time for fun, you know what I mean? And sometimes date nights just don't cut it, like going to the movies and grabbing a bite is great, but sometimes your mind is still on the kids and you're calling home and all of that. This got them completely out. And one big thing was that they had disconnection for a few days. I'm talking no cell service. And they didn't use their Wi-Fi. And they actually had to talk to each other and have fun. And they rediscovered how to have fun with each other, which I thought was amazing. And they sent me the most beautiful letter kind of to that effect.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is awesome, because think of all the times where, for those of us who've traveled when we were younger, maybe single or whatever, and you meet someone while you're traveling, and how many times is there a romance that blooms from that, right? Because you're in this amazing place and you're discovering things that are the unknown, and maybe they're a little bit scary, but you're right. And so when you're in a relationship, you can do the same thing. You reconnect, just like you were talking about. It's like starting a whole new relationship and seeing each other in a different way and getting that spark again. So
and you don't have the time to do that, because like I said, when you go out into, like most couples, they'll go to a movie, or they're not talking to each other at the movie, so it's like you're kind of missing the point. But when you're in some place with no TV and there's no Wi-Fi and the cell signal is weak, and you kind of have to talk to each other, and you better have something to say,
And how can you not have something to say when you're walking with lions and you're thinking, okay, well, if you go that way and I go this way, only one of us will get eaten. So you have things like
it's like when people run out of things to say at home, which happens a lot, to couples. I'm sure you know better than me, like, with the people, that you deal with, you forget. And like, that's why I think these experiences are so important, because you could go to South Africa and just sit in your hotel room and walk around Cape Town, but it wouldn't be the same as doing a caged crocodile dive or a caged shark dive or a bungee jump or something like that. You would, you're pushing yourselves, and then you're talking about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Afterwards. So even like when you have trouble reconnecting and it's a little awkward, when you try, all of a sudden you have all these talking points. So it's kind of like a side benefit.
And I think you also see a different side of the person that you didn't know. It doesn't matter how long you've been together, but you see a different side of that person. And I think it's so amazing. Okay, so Gabriella, let's say I come to you, I'm like, okay, I want to go do a super cool vacation. I only have 5 days. What can I do? Is that possible?
Oh my gosh, it's so much. I mean, I do trips in 2 days. So, yes, I mean, I have a product called 48-hour Power Jaunt, which actually.
Let's do that. Let's talk 48. Let's talk 48 hours, because a lot of these people have kids and it's hard to be away. So let's talk that. What would be your power trip?
Okay. Well, I actually just kind of created one for myself today to Spain, so I can share it with you.
Okay.
Actually to the Basque Country in Spain, for example. So you would fly to Bilbao and you would do a private art tour. You'd have a night in the home of an artist and you'd have a privately cooked dinner with a bunch of interesting people. You do a beer bike tour the next day, or it could be a beer and wine bike tour, which is this gigantic thing. And you're kind of cycling through the vineyard, sampling things on this bike made for 15 people. There's nightlife involved. There's a tapas bar crawl. You can go out to the vineyards and learn about, the whole entire process at a particular winery that no one ever gets to have access to that we can, and taste to your heart's content and just eat your way through the city or the region and be done by Monday. So it is actually all really possible. And I mean, imagine that, like you said, you can't get away without the kids and you have a weekend, fly on Friday night, arrive Saturday, spend all day Sunday, and come back home on Monday.
Okay, that's awesome. Holy cow. So yeah, you want to have I don't know, when I was growing up, we have the no-dos, so you don't sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's like little tricks to make that work. But just what I love about that is that you're giving me an idea that don't tell me you can't go because you don't have the time, because there are ways to adjust it so that you can have the time and do these amazing trips. So I just booked a trip to Spain as well. And what I was surprised by was that they said you need to have, and there's certain things that I think we need to know if we're going to go on these overseas trips that I was not aware of. And they said your passport needs to be valid for, I think it was 6 months or 12 months after the trip.
6 months, yeah.
Is it 6 months?
Yeah. What
else do we need to know so that we are prepared?
You'd be surprised how huge that is. People don't realize it. So that's why it's always good to talk to a trusted professional. That's a huge one. I always also say, learn a little bit about the customs of where you're going to go. There are certain things that happen in certain places that you have no idea about. If you're going to Dubai, for example, you have to dress modestly. If you're going to Japan and you hand your business card to somebody, there's a certain way to do it. I always say, at least do some research on that, perfunctory research, or talk to, an expert, because that can make or break your situation. And I think really, my most important tip is be open. I think the worst thing somebody can do when they travel is be closed off. You don't want to look like the snotty American that's all decked out and doesn't want to talk to anybody and just wants to sit in the car and go from A to B. You miss so much of a destination when you don't talk to locals and you don't eat the food and really, and mix and trust yourself, enough, your gut, to know what's safe and not safe. But I always find try to open yourself up a little bit more. And I think your experience would be very different.
Oh, that's good advice. And I think that's you. The food is big. The food is big. I know this one kid, we kind of helped raise him a little bit, and he wouldn't eat anything. And then finally he went to India and he had no choice. And so he was eating everything. He came back and he said that there was nothing he didn't like. And it changed the way that he approached food. It absolutely changed it. And the food is such a part of your experience. So don't go to McDonald's, avoid McDonald's.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there are some times where, I guess we all have to have a burger at some point, or we all need comfort food, but that is such a great point. Enjoy and try to your limits, don't do something crazy. Don't eat worms off the street. You know what I mean? But unless you want to, but I always find try to indulge in something and maybe splurge on one really good meal, if your budget allows, because that would probably be the meal that you are going to remember forever.
Yeah. And I love the idea of making sure you mix with the locals. Find out where the locals are going, not just where the tourists are going. You know, don't eat at the Hyatt, go somewhere else and see what's there. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, the best thing to do is always ask your driver. Like if you have a taxi driver or an Uber driver these days, they will always tell you where, versus the hotel concierge. Like ask a local, it's perfect advice.
Okay, good. So how much should we be budgeting for some of these trips? What's reasonable?
For the Power Johns, they're a little bit more expensive because they have to be pre-built because you have such a short period of time that everything kind of has to fit like a puzzle. So those are generally, in the $1,500 to $2,000 range for the weekend per person, depending, it depends on where you're flying and what time of year. But really we customize anything. So if somebody came to me and said, I really need a weekend away, but I just want to go to Vancouver, or I just want to go to LA, or we can certainly do that. So basically I work backwards. I try to understand where the person is, budget-wise and thought-wise, see if we can marry those two. Sometimes it's hard, but I always try to at least get to know the person a little bit, see what their wishes are, what their likes and dislikes are. And, if that budget doesn't allow, then we find something that does, and it could be something they never thought of.
So it doesn't have to be some exotic trip where you're going overseas and traveling, 16 hours. It can be something local. So if you only have, to me, when I listen to you, you're like, oh yeah, I went to Spain I'm going for 48 hours. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be so tired. I'm gonna fall into my glass of wine, and my whole trip will be ruined.
No, it's definitely not for everybody. You have some people are ready to do it. Some people prefer, longer or closer to home, and that's fine. I think the whole idea of just pulling yourself out of your everyday, and it could be a weekend away. Like this weekend, I live in New Jersey. I'll be in Connecticut this weekend at a spa. That's probably going to feel like a whole world away. It probably will feel like I'm in Baden-Baden or something, but I will make myself feel that way. But I'm only going to be an hour away. And for me, that's going to be absolute bliss because I plan not to check my phone and not really to talk to too many people at all. So it really can be something, completely, local, but very much out of your comfort zone. Think about, camping or glamping. There's lots of different opportunities. Think about, I live, like I said, New Jersey, there's plenty of coastal B&Bs, on the shoreline. That's a getaway too. Or New York City, I'm a half hour from the city. I'm there all the time, but I very rarely spend the night. That could be a lovely experience too. So there's always something around if your budget doesn't allow for, being able to fly somewhere.
Your budget or your time. And then I know that if you have kids and you want to bring them, you could adjust that too.
Absolutely.
That's so important. And like I said, my husband and I, we've gone on a bazillion trips with our kids and without our kids, but for short trips. And it makes such a difference. So I appreciate all the stuff that you're doing. And now we're empty nesters, so we can do a little bit longer. So
but also gives you something to look forward to also. Like if you plan short little trips, but you have 5 or 6 a year, that keeps everybody's, a calendar fresh and exciting. And it always gives you something to look forward to.
It does. It does. Okay. So now we're going to shift a little bit, Gabriella, and I didn't tell you about this, but we're playing a little game.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So this is where we get to know you a little bit better and know some of your secrets.
Sure.
Okay. So it's called Truth or Truth.
Okay.
And so you have to say the truth. Okay. So the first one's easy. Who is the hottest celebrity of all time? Who would you want to make out with the most? Are you ready? I'm going to give you 4 options.
Okay. All right.
Okay, the first one is Michael B. Jordan. He's the guy from Superman. You know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. My assistant helped me come up with these names. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Okay.
I was going to say, I already had my number 1, number 2, but I'll go with yours. It's okay.
Okay, well, let's go there. Maybe I'll list one of them and you can tell us who yours was that we didn't say. Ryan Gosling, Cristiano Ronaldo, or Seth Rogen?
Ronaldo. Well, I'm Portuguese, so that's not a fair question. That's always going to be Ronaldo. No, but honestly, he's one of my biggest obsessions ever. So yes, it would be 100% without hesitation.
Okay, well, maybe we can arrange that. We'll see what we can do. We'll see. Okay, so that's good. Okay, if you could be invisible for one day, what would you do?
I would probably, I think I would spy on my daughter at school. I'd love to just that's actually what I would do. I would love to see what she's doing, what's happening in the classroom, interactions, and I would be totally that mom.
Oh my God, I can only envision what I would do with my son, because I have older sons. It doesn't matter when they were, what age, but they were, one of them, my youngest one was a little bit naughty. And I could just see just like smacking him, not hard, not hard.
But just don't see, see what's going on during the day. I would love that.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's see. Oh, if you could be a man for one day, what would you do?
I would use the opportunity to explain to as many of my friends as I could why things happen to them.
So the man's perspective.
Yes. Yes. And I would try, because I've been through some horrible things. My friends are currently, it's also been a strange couple of weeks for many people in my life. And a lot of people walking around without any answers these days. So I think I would try to explain, or I would probably Facebook Live it, but I would gather my knowledge and write it all down and just try to comfort as many women as possible.
Oh, I like that. In fact, we're doing a show on that soon, coming up in the next couple of weeks. So you've inspired that. Okay, last question. So just so you all know, Gabriella is single. I don't know if you heard me say that earlier, but look how beautiful she is. Well, I don't know if you're single, but I know that you're not married, so that means that you could be single. Okay, so what is the biggest turnoff from a guy?
Lying. Hands down. Yes. And it's worse when you catch them, I mean, like, I'm pretty intuitive, so I always know. I just usually just bank it, and I'm like, okay, all right, like, let's just see if this happens again in another way. But I just believe, everybody should just tell the truth. And sometimes things hurt, but they hurt worse when they're unsaid. And, I much prefer to have a discussion, understand one point of view, play my point of view, and be done, or move on, than have the consistent, the fibs and the lies and all of that. I think, like, we've all seen a lot of that, especially some stories my friends have told me recently. It's sort of like, but I would just much prefer, always having the truth told, because it always hurts a lot less than, having to deal with a lie.
And once you start telling the lies, it's hard to ever build that trust back up and have a relationship built on integrity. So I think that was a very valid complaint. Yes. If that's what we're going to do. It's turn off. So if you want to date Gabriella, don't lie.
Exactly. Tell the truth. Because we find out anyway. And I'm an empath, so I'm big on this. I'm a little bit vibey. And, it's like, we're always going to know. So it's like your kid, your kid took the cookie out of the jar. They did, you know what I mean? Like, they can be like, smudged all over their face and stuff. And sometimes they're going to deny it, So you might as well just be like, yep, it was me, did it, and let's move on.
Own it. Yep, I love it. Okay, Gabrielle, where can people find your information if they want to plan a trip, which I'm going to contact you. But direct us on where we should go.
Sure. Well, my company is Exploratory Journeys, but that's a little bit difficult sometimes to spell and all of that. So it's easy just to get me at 48hourpowerjaunt.com. So that's number 48hourjaunt.com. And then all of that stuff goes to me. And like I said, it's not limited to 48 hours. We can build anything. So I'd just be happy to talk to anybody. And for, you can reach me there also, or at Gabriella at The Mogul Mom, if you want to talk mompreneurship and business and struggles and all of that. I'm available as well.
Awesome. And this will all be on my website as well. So if you didn't catch one of those, just go to the website and I'll have all those links for you. So Gabrielle, thank you so much. I can't wait for our next trip. And now, instead of just going to Spain and hanging out at the beach, I'm feeling a little bit of pressure to go do something a little bit more exciting. And I am actually inspired. I want to. So
we're gonna talk about it.
I'm definitely going to pick your brain on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, come on back next week. Every Wednesday, 1 p.m., we have a new fabulous guest. And as always, remember the gratitude attitude. With the person that you are with your kids, with your boss, with the people at the grocery store, always remember that gratitude attitude, and you will bring greater joy to them and, of course, to yourself. So have a great day, and I will see you next week.
Thanks a lot.